The king walked with determination amidst the ruins of Hattusha, an ancient city condemned to desolation. Once a thriving royal seat, Hattusha now lies in ruins, a chaotic tapestry of burnt rubble and stones. Twisted roots emerged like fingers, breaking through stone and mortar, completing the destruction of the ancient walls. As the king ventured deeper into the overgrown forest, a symphony of sounds surrounded him. Rustling leaves whispered forgotten secrets. Melancholic birdsongs mourned the fall of the once mighty city. A curse had befallen these ruins, declaring, "May the storm god strike down any who become king after me and resettle Hattusha." Undeterred by the curse, the king reached the ancient citadel. Alone, he pondered deeply for a few moments. Then, with a resolute expression, he nodded to his retinue. The ancient city of Hattusha would be resettled once again. My name is Sarah, and today we'll take a look at the rise of one of the greatest empires in ancient history. Welcome to the Mists of Time. Hattusha was located in Anatolia, what's now modern-day Turkey. For much of the early Bronze Age, the region was divided into many small kingdoms. Merchants from the Mesopotamian city of Ashur conducted trade in this region, bringing with them the strategic metals required for bronze production. This extensive trade network generated a significant amount of wealth for everyone involved. Still, it made the political landscape quite chaotic, as each of the Anatolian kings tried to secure a share of the profits for themselves. When it became clear that cooperation among the various kings had grown unfeasible, an imperial agenda of unification was initiated by King Anita of Kanesh. He assumed the title of Great King, and by the year 7040 BC, he had conquered a significant portion of the region. But you know the old saying, you can build a throne of swords, but you can sit on it for long. When King Anita died, the entire region descended into chaos. The Assyrian merchants, who were the very lifeblood of the region, fled. Sadly, the letters they used to send each other to share information served as our main written source. When the merchants fled, a veil descended on the region. When the dark curtain of history lifts, we find Anita's empire in shambles. The political landscape had totally changed. New rules had emerged on the horizon: conquer or be conquered. The era of commercial cooperation was a distant memory. This was now the age of swords and spears. King Labarna sat on the throne of Kussara, the ancestral home of Anita's dynasty. However, Anita's empire had long disappeared, and Labarna was just one king among many. Labarna led his armies to conquer a large swathe of land. Year after year, he enlarged this kingdom, pushing the land he controlled up to the Mediterranean Sea. To ensure control over the newly conquered lands, he put his sons to rule them. From what we can understand, King Labarna had a son named Labarna as well. He was appointed by his father as the ruler of the vassal state of Sanawita. This arrangement allowed him to prepare himself to eventually become the next king of Kussara, while ruling over a lesser kingdom. But for unknown reasons, Labarna the Younger was very unpopular in Sanawita. A rebel faction seized control of the city and installed their own governor, a man named Papadilma. The rebellion had deprived Labarna's kingdom of a sizable territory. But what we do know for sure is that significant changes were on the horizon. When a new king, also confusingly named Labarna, ascended to the throne of Kusara, he started to feel that the ancient royal seat was no longer deemed suitable. A new royal capital was needed. Instead, he set his gaze on some ancient and twisted ruins in the north. The city had been destroyed many years before by the great King Anita, who had also cast a curse upon it. The city's name was Hattusha, and thus the king's name became Hattusili, which means the man of Hattusha. Why King Hattusili felt the need to depart from Kusara is a question that remains unanswered. We simply do not have enough information. It is possible that the rebellion in Sanawita made the king uneasy about the local influential families. Or maybe Hattusha was simply too much important from a strategic point of view, prompting the king to closely oversee the rebuilding project. Perhaps one day archaeologists will discover new documents that will help us find answers to this question. However, what we do know for sure is that Hattusha was an extraordinary place. It occupied an advantageous position that was easily defensible, with a rocky outcrop serving as a fortified citadel, lush forests, and numerous springs providing an abundant water source. From his new royal seat in Hattusha, King Hattusili governed a powerful Anatolian kingdom that came to be known as the Land of Hatti, and so we call its people with the legendary name of Hittites. Hattusili found himself occupied with overseeing the rebuilding of Hattusha, but his enemy Papadilma continued to rule over the city of Sanawita. Hattusili considered Papadilma's presence a significant threat to his authority. So he gathered his warriors and meticulously planned a military campaign against him. But the outcome of this campaign was relatively modest. In fact, it is remembered as follows.
He marched against Sanahuita. He did not destroy it, but its land he did destroy. He left his troops in 2 places as a garrison. He gave whatever sheepfolds were there to his garrison troops.
It is evident that the Hittite king was unable to capture the city, but his army plundered and occupied the surrounding countryside for some time. The conquest of Sanahuita had to be delayed, but he focused back on rebuilding Hattusha. However, it was a complex and costly operation, so what about plundering a wealthy city? Hattusili's army marched against the kingdom of Zalp on the Black Sea. The city was swiftly conquered and sacked. The statues of the local gods were removed and taken to Hattusha as a symbol of Hittite dominance. The act of removing sacred statues was known as god napping. Given the significance of the statues in the religious beliefs of that time, god napping was considered the highest humiliation for a defeated enemy. While the attack on Sanahuita had proven unsuccessful, the conquest of Zalpa left Hattusili feeling secure enough to seek further conquests in distant lands. The borders of the Hittite kingdom extended from the Black Sea to the Cilician Gates, which served as the gateway from Anatolia to the prosperous land of Mesopotamia. The dominant regional power was the formidable kingdom of Yankad. Its main city was Aleppo, which still exists today. Aleppo was one of the wealthiest commercial hubs in the world, as it was a vital junction for caravan routes from distant markets. It's no surprise that Yamkad presented an alluring target for Hattusili's thirst for conquest. However, Yamkad presented a challenging target. Hattusili displayed astuteness by understanding that an attack against such a distant and powerful enemy was a risky gamble. A single mistake could result in losing everything. Thus, he meticulously prepared every detail of the military campaign. Hattusili invaded the region only when the timing was right. At that time, Amitaku, the king of Alalak, was openly rebelling against his overlord, Yarilim III, king of Yamkat. Hattusili's plan was simple, yet cunning. He anticipated that the mighty king of Yamkat would not come to the aid of Alalak, since it was defying his authority. The Hittite invasion caught Amitakum off guard, preventing him from mounting a counterattack. After plundering and destroying Alalak, Hattusili withdrew from the region. The message was crystal clear. The kingdom of the Hittites was now a force to reckon with. I hope you enjoyed this video. Next time, we will explore how Hattusili expanded his kingdom, only to face the risk of losing everything. But if you're interested in learning about how Anatolia was unified, check out this video.